So I made sure to film this review while there was still daylight, because I don't have a death wish. Why would I review this movie in the dark? The Babadook is written and directed by Jennifer Kent and stars Essie Davis and Noah Wiseman. The Babadook is about a single mother named Amelia whose husband died 6 years ago, driving her to the hospital so she could deliver their son. And now, 6 years later, the son, Samuel, has lots of behavioral problems. He enjoys making weapons, and he believes that there's this monster around, and he keeps talking about how he wants to smash its head in. And this really kind of takes its toll on Amelia because she's just struggling to love this chaotic child. But one day, this really disturbing children's book called Mr. Babadook shows up at their house, and they read it together and it scares Samuel a lot. He believes that the Babadook is this creature he thinks he sees, and obviously Amelia just does not believe it at first, but then she slowly begins to realize it might be more real than she thinks. Now, I was actually really excited to watch The Babadook, and I'm not a huge horror fan at all, but I heard lots of good stuff about this coming out from Sundance, and I must have watched the trailer like a billion times because I thought it was just so effectively creepy without showing me anything. And just a side story, last year I tried to get people to watch The Conjuring with me in the theater, and lots of people said they would go. Then on the day itself, they all ditched me, and I ended up watching The Conjuring by myself. The same thing pretty much happened this year with The Babadook. And what did I think of The Babadook? I actually think it's one of the best horror movies I've seen in a very long time. This has great performances, great direction, some of the best audio-visual presentation you'll ever see, and it legitimately scared me. Now, I don't know what the budget of the Babadook was, and you can tell it's a low-budget movie, but it's not cheap. There's a difference there. And there's lots of practical effects they use here, like, wire work, and people just kind of, you can tell they're just kind of like sliding on rolling boards and stuff, but the way they use these practical effects is very, very sparse, and it's just enough to make it feel like unsettling and creepy without feeling cheap. And the great thing about the Babadook itself, like the way it looks, it's very, very DIY, because the best way I can describe the Babadook to you is that it looks like a coat on a coat hanger with a hat on top and like these claw thingies. That's all you really get to see of the Babadook, because I don't consider this a spoiler, but throughout the entire movie you're only really given glimpses of what you think the Babadook looks like. You never get, a real full view of this creature. And this really, really works. It makes it scarier, in my opinion, because it makes you paranoid about all the little things in your house that you didn't really pay attention to before. And as a result, you begin to question your own sanity and you question Amelia's sanity. And let's talk about the book itself. The book in this movie is, I think, so disturbing because it mixes like childlike innocence, like it really looks like a children's book, but it mixes it with like this really brutal violence. And I think that's just really effective. And like the second or third time you see this book, get ready because it gets even worse. It's also great what they're able to do with like really subtle production design and makeup and stuff. Like they slowly apply more and more makeup to Essie Davis to make her look more stressed out, and it really, really helps. And the production design, like the house they inhabit, um like it really has a distinct look to it, but you don't really notice it like early on. It feels kind of empty, and it's very low lit, kind of dark, but still it's like really, really clean and tidy. So it's just very, very eerie also, and just makes you again feel unsettled. It's great atmosphere. Now I want to talk about the editing in this movie also. Now, if you're a big fan of jump scare horror and stuff, you will find this movie a bit slow. And but I didn't really find the beginning slow at all because it knew it needed to spend time to develop these characters and the situation they were in, and this really great solid foundation allowed for the scares to be very, very effective. Like these scares are very personal to the characters. These scares mean something to the characters. And the editing is great because it's extremely suspenseful no matter what's happening, whether your eyes are being drawn to something that isn't there or whether you're being made to look at something unsettling. Like the editing just really works. Again, it makes you paranoid about your own sanity, and it really just allows you to familiarize yourself with the surroundings, which are quite important in this movie. And one thing I have to mention is that this movie practically has no jump scares. That's right. Like, and this movie really scared me and didn't have jump scares. Like, the couple of surprise moments you'll have in this movie, they do mean something. Like they make sense in the context of the story. They're not throwaway scares. But hands down, the best thing about this movie, in my opinion, and we're talking Oscar worthy, I think this movie has sound design that is Oscar worthy and Hall of Fame worthy or whatever. First of all, let's talk about what the Babadook sounds like. I think it just sounds so unholy and so incredibly creepy. Like this really just made the hairs in the back of my neck stand up. And I think the Babadook embodies the sounds in your house you think sound like voices and sound like, scary things like, static or creaking doors or even like a flushing toilet. All those sounds like just kind of combine to this nightmarish, whatever it is. And now it just started raining, so like, I'm scared now. And not just the Babadook though, like all the other sounds in this movie are great. Every single noise is so meticulously like recorded and crafted to really give you a sense of place and situation. Like sound really is important in this movie, and three knocks on the door has never sounded so scary and terrifying. Even when things aren't happening, like there's some weird sound glitches going on in the background and like lots of ambient noise that make you feel really unsettled. Again, even if nothing is happening, because it really just maintains the dread. Like I was sitting in the theater and suddenly I heard like static come from the left side of the room, and I was like, what was that? Then it moved to the right, and I was thinking, is this actually the movie or is it the theater? Or it made me paranoid. But the thing the Babadook really has going for it is that it's a genuinely heartfelt story about a mother struggling to love her son, even if she has every reason not to, because this son is giving her so many problems and stuff, and, you would kind of understand why she'd be so mad all the time, but, she's just struggling to love this person, and it's such a relatable story for anyone, I think. I actually think this would have been a good, like, straight up drama, even without the Babadook, and it'd still be kind of scary. In terms of the way Amelia is written as a character, I think, I've never seen the single mother trope done so realistically, I think, because she fluctuates between being very tolerant of Samuel and then being really fed up, but she never strays from her character. You really just feel like it's coming from one place. And I think Jennifer Kent really did take a risk, and it paid off by making the dialogue very kind of raw, and unembellished and stuff. It's very realistic, and I think the raw dialogue really just faces the emotion head first, and it manages to sidestep being awkward. And in terms of acting, Essie Davis as this mother is her transformation from being kind of tired to like completely demonic almost. It's really tragic because you can tell even when she's doing bad things, she's desperately trying to stay strong. But at the same time, her performance is really terrifying because you start to question maybe she's had this viciousness in her the entire time, and she's such a great, relatable, likable character even if she's doing bad things because you're still rooting for her. And Noah Wiseman, the kid in this movie, is great. And it takes a lot for me to think a child actor is great, but this kid was really, really good. He wasn't annoying at all, and it's because he has this genuine awkwardness about him that kids have, Like, he's not pretentious, precocious, or whatever. Like, he really has that weirdness about him that little kids have, and he's very, very honest with his performance. You almost begin to think that he actually does have behavioral problems himself. And I watched an interview where the director Jennifer Kent was talking, and she said that she really couldn't care less about making it like a conventional horror movie to scare people. She really just wanted to tell this story about this mother, and then she realized later on this would have to be a horror movie, and I think that's a fantastic approach because it really paid off. This movie does not feel like a horror movie where you're stuck in a house. It really feels like a descent into these people's psyches and stuff. You can tell she's so focused on telling the story. You can tell she really values psychological stuff over like the physical horror. And of course, she proves she's a great director because she can milk so much suspense out of every scene without really showing you anything. The only real problem I have with this movie is a small one. It's that I wish it was a bit longer, in order to flesh out certain characters in the movie that show up at the beginning, but then we never really get to see them by the end. So there's not a lot of closure with those characters. And I know a lot of people might not like the ending of this movie because it's really strange. It's really one of a kind, I think. But I thought it made sense in a like metaphorical way, and I just accepted it as it was because the movie like set me up so much, and I was just ready to take whatever it gave me. The Babadook is an awesome movie. I have no idea if you'll ever get to see it anywhere, but if you have the chance to see it, please do see it. Again, I have to warn you, this is not a fun horror movie where you can sit around with your friends and freak each other out and just scream your head off. This is a very serious drama that just happens to be a horror movie. But it did scare me, and it took me a couple of days for me to get used to walking around in the dark again because I kept thinking like the shoe rack or whatever was gonna eat me. So that's my review of the Babadook. Have you guys seen it? If you have, what did you think about it? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Whatever you thought, whether you agree with me or not, please leave me a comment. Let's have a conversation.